council meeting of the Village of Armada will now come to order. Will everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have roll call, please, Clark.
Shaw.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
Belkey.
Here.
Sledds.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Yeah, Conan's absent.
All right. Next is the approval of the agenda. What is the council's wishes, please?
We need to add on.
Oh, yes, okay, fine, yes. Go ahead.
I gave you guys the stuff
Yes,
that's, to consider participation in the first responder hazard pay and public safety and public health payroll reimbursement programs. Becky's going to talk about, Becky and Joe are going to talk about that.
That would be item E.
Item E.
Yes.
And Ross has asked if we could move things around a little bit since we have people in the audience. So we're going to move availability of water treatment plant filtration media up to A, and establishment of out-of-township water use, oh, I spelled that wrong, billing rate up to B, and then the panel to review the village sidewalk sale policy will be C, and
I would make that D, and so that Lyle doesn't have to go too far back. Just make B number C. That makes sense?
I'm confused.
Jeff's good, thank you, because I'm thinking.
Department of Public
So you want to make
Works,
A,
C?
B, B, C, C, A, and D, B.
Once more, Michelle, please.
All right. Item C will become item A. Item D will become item B. Item B will become item C.
Okay.
And item A will become item D, and then we just talked about item E. It just, we've got two gentlemen from McIntyre's, and we've got the chief here. I'd just like to get him out of here.
You don't want it, huh?
All right. At this time, and the floor is going to be open up to the citizens. And,
We didn't approve the agenda.
excuse me.
Didn't approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead, Lyle.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'll move the agenda be accepted as amended.
As amended.
Support.
Yeah.
By
Shaw.
Shaw.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next is citizen comments. I would like to remind you that you have 3 minutes to address the council, and also at the end of the meeting, after the up and coming agenda items too, you have another chance to address the council at the end 2 times. So state your name for the record, and like I say, you have 3 minutes, just as a reminder, please. All right, so any citizen at this time would like to address the council? If not, we will-
Presentations we're also not going to have, because that's part of the media
I'm
that
going
we
to move
moved
that
around.
technical portion
Yeah.
under
Okay.
item
all right,
A.
administrative reports, liaison reports, any?
I do. I met this week with our new rep from the workers' compensation fund. Jerry, the guy that I've been seeing ever since I started here, retired. So we have a new gentleman that came out. His name was Irwin. And we met. Our workers' compensation experience modification factor is what they base your insurance rates off of. Our experience modification factor is 0.88 starting July 1st. Optimum is 1 or below, so we're doing great. So letting everybody know our lowest loss ratio for 1920 was 0. So it was a good meeting. So
Very good, thank you.
Anyone
Anyone else?
Yep, Mr. President. Just 2 quickies. My bad, I didn't get the stuff in the corner up. I'm just too busy. I'll get to that this next 2 weeks. And now that the library and the township hall are generally open, I can get in there and do the final research I think I need to do for the see, couldn't say that before, I cannot say it now. Sesquicentennial plaque from the state. Remember that? About 1 million years ago in October, so that's still out there. So I'll get on that and do that research and get that turned in.
Thank you. You have the planning commission minutes in your packet as well. We will move on to the general business. And what is the council's wishes as to the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I'll move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Support.
By Clark. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say the special event permit application that came in for the homecoming parade, obviously that is going to depend on what happens in the future. We just, I talked to Ms. Kukuru about it, and we just decided it was probably best just to get it in. If we have to, either side can pull it, so, you know, hopefully we're not, that doesn't happen, but it's only in because it's the beginning of the school year when they come back, so.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. New business. So now we will go with availability of water treatment plant filtration media. Ross, this is your department, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You all remember several years ago when we planned the budget, we put $250,000 in it to replace the media, the filtration media, in 2 of the 4 filtration vessels in the water treatment plant. Since then, we've been chasing the media. The media has generally not been available, and we have given periodic updates over time over the last 2 years, and knew that it was being looked at and have the potential for the media to be remade under a new license, I guess it is. And in any case, McIntyre's soft water service has been doggedly pursuing that with Sunshine Soft Water, the parent company, I believe, and that media now is close to being ready to go. In your packet, they have provided a couple fact sheets on the current media. I'm going to find my fact sheets. The G2 media, which is what we have currently in the plant, it's given us about 16 years of good service, but it's getting close to the end of its life. It needs to be replaced. A year ago, we were looking at possibly using other media, but requires everything from re-engineering the plant to new permits to high cost. And so the G2 media, if it's coming back online, would be the preferable way to go. The big issue of cost is, the big issue of course is that the cost today is not what the cost was 16 years ago. Obviously the cost has gone up. So that's one of the fact sheets in there. In fact, there's 2 fact sheets you can take a look at or ask questions if you have any. More importantly, there's a proposal in there. It's a 2-phase proposal that lists the cost to replace the first 2 filtration vessels, and then subsequent cost to replace the last 2 filtration vessels.
Rose, did you pass out those fact sheets?
I put them in everybody's box.
No, this is my, I don't have.
I will give you my
Okay.
copy once I'm done. Sorry about that. And in any case, I've got McIntyre's here to be able to answer any technical questions. Gentlemen, you want to give a quick update? Go ahead.
Okay. Did you know, I presented the fact sheet and kind of an understanding of what has happened in the past. G2, there's, well, millions of pounds of it around that's in use today. And it started out the media was only designed to last 7 to 8 years. Well, we found out that time has proven it. This actually was a better media than we thought it was, because as you said, it's been 14, 15 years.
Good, sir.
And we're looking at, every year we go back through and look at all the different installations that there are of it. And all of them are lasting probably twice as long as what they were projected. So it's a very good product. It's got advantages. And the reason why we worked so hard to get this back online, even got to the point where I even talked to the inventor of it. We thought that ADI for quite a few years was the inventor of it, but we found out that they were just a distributor of it. So we made an agreement for them to start reproducing it again. And the reason is the advantages of it, which on the fact sheet that all of you have. It's got such low backwash rates, longer life than is expected, and also, as of now, it's the only media on the market that can have iron in the water on the inlet side of the system. I did explain on the fact sheet that there's another one that's, they call it green sand. But for one, you don't have really enough iron, because you got to have 20 times more iron in the water than you have arsenic in order for it to even work. If not, then you have to add iron to it, and then turn around, take it back out, and take it back out again. So,
and that would be, the green sand would be the most likely alternative if we went to something else, I believe.
Trouble is, it won't work because the backwash rate is 3 times higher than the backwash rate you have now.
Right, well, and that's the point in the fact sheets about the re-engineering costs and the permitting costs and so on, that we very likely would have to incur. All the while, the current media in the filtration vessels continues to be less and less effective over time. And so a concern would be that we would bust the arsenic levels that we have to watch out for, and still not have a re-engineered plant with permits and filtration media that really works well.
It'd be like, even if it would work, like I explained, it won't work in this particular situation, but it'd be like starting all over again. Everything would have to be re-engineered. The face plumbing on the equipment isn't large enough to handle the backwash rate. And in the fact sheet, I showed the difference between the backwash rate of the G2 and the backwash rate of other similar medias. Now, the green sand was one I used for instance, but there's other medias on the market. But there isn't a one, and the reason why I use the green sand as an example, there isn't a one that can have any iron on the inlet side of the system.
Right. So it has to be.
Say I put iron filters in. I've been in installations where they put 3 iron filters in the size of your arsenic filters, and then 3 arsenic filters on after that. So this is one thing why we press so hard to get this back on the market again. And the reason why it's not on the wasn't on the market for a while is the ADI company was sold to another company, and then they felt they didn't need it, so they dropped it. So everything was just left hanging.
Right.
So we went to work and actually found out who the manufacturer of it was, and they've agreed to make it for us, because we've got installations as far as Texas,
Right.
and there's other companies besides us that also used it. So everybody's glad that it's going to be produced again.
These are other municipalities, small users that have a water filtration
Right.
requirement, and so on, so on. So they're all over the place. So they would be in the same boat that we're in, but for this media being remanufactured, if that's the right term.
Not only your plant would have to be re-engineered because of the one thing, the backwash rates, your system wouldn't handle the backwash rates. We don't know whether the distributor system in the back and the bottom of the tank would handle a backwash rate 3 times of what the G2 media is.
Right.
There's a lot of problems that develop if this wasn't coming back on the market.
I think one of the questions that we explored was, and Ed and I met with these gents last Wednesday. One of the things we explored though was, can we go and shop this around, and these gentlemen in Sunshine, I guess the overarching company, has a proprietary relationship with the company that does the media. So it's, I don't know that it's likely we're going to be able to go and find it anyplace else at any other cost. It's probably.
And we've tried to be very fair on this too. We're not trying to hold everybody up. In fact, one thing that took, well, I worked on a study for 4 months. You wouldn't believe the price they first gave me to start this back up.
I could probably believe it. I work for the government, so I do.
And so I worked for them, like I said, studied for 4 months. And actually, it really did help when I actually found out the inventor of the product. And he kind of thought I was getting robbed too. So he went to work and helped me. And now the price of it now, of course, it's high, no doubt about it. But it's right in with what the other premium medias on the market for other products are. So it isn't, it's something that I was surprised when I went back and looked into this, but I did the best I could. Let's put it that way.
Well, so I think the situation is this: is that there are other medias we could take a look at and go to, but we would have to do a study of what that media requires our plant to be. We would have to consider re-engineering the plant. There's a cost to that, with the permitting, and then whatever the cost of that media is. And so, because we've gotten, I guess, double the life expectancy based upon what you guys are telling me, I think this is probably the way we want to go and avoid all that other stuff. Now, you indicated that we're not quite there with the media being ready, but 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months.
It's a certification issue, yes?
Well, it's all been NSF certified. But the NSF, through the exchanges going through these other companies, has just been sitting dormant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to be brought up to date with the NSF, which is no problem doing it. But before they can produce it, we got to get that certification back up to date.
Okay.
And nobody wants to do it until we get some municipalities or some customers saying, yes, we want it.
Right.
And once it comes back up online again, as far as the certification, then they'll continue again like they did before.
So
Wait a minute. What made such a dramatic change in the price from when we first put it in? And even if it lasted twice as long as what anybody anticipated, we should be at like $50,000, $60,000. What changed? What factor makes it jump to be in the hundreds of thousands?
Well, I think one reason why it was discontinued when the new company bought it, I think they found that the price they were selling it for, they weren't making any money on it. And I think it was more a money factor than anything else, that we're not making money on it, so why produce it? But I agree with you, because well, like I said, how hard I fought to get it where it's at.
Yeah. It's conceivable it would come down over time, but I don't know that we have a whole lot of time to
I
wait.
don't think it will.
No, once you pay for something, that's going to be it. You only go up from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think the price will stay stable for a while because everything has been gone through to get it where it's at.
Right.
When they first, they wanted $1,400 a cubic foot for it when I first started looking at it, and I just plain out told them I said,
That's just highway robbery.
and that was my cost.
Yeah.
I just told them I'm getting robbed.
Yeah.
And then I did some research, like I said, found the actual inventor of it. And he said, well, your situation, we found out from other situations, everybody's in the same boat and they need the product. And he says, I can produce a product and sell it to you a lot cheaper than what they're trying to tell you it's going to cost. To tell you the truth, I don't know why it's as high as it is.
I guess it's just if you want it,
It's
someone out there wants it,
yeah.
and they want it bad enough, you're gonna pay what we're gonna charge.
It's,
I don't see any other reason.
well, at first I was afraid to tell people what the price was, you know.
So here's kind of the situation we're in now. So talking to these guys, their quote is good for a period of time. They don't think the quote will change. But as they're describing, they need some kind of a commitment to be able to pass on to the company that, okay, you've got one municipality over here that wants it and they're committed to it, and here's another one, and here's another one, here's another one. That helps finalize the certification, I guess, and
Yeah, and part of it is they wanted me to get the certification for it. I said, you know, it's your product, you're the inventor of it, you got the patent on it. I'm not gonna pay for the certification for it. It's your job to pay for the certification. So, and they were fair about that, because rather than saying, well, we'll have the city of Armada pay the whole fee, they've advertised that over years to where it's gonna be fair to everybody.
right.
So, it's, you know, and I guess the main thing is, we handle 4 different medias. There's more medias out there, but we feel there's only 4 good ones. And this has got and the main thing here in this situation is the backwash.
Yes.
You get your retention pond,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be big enough for one. You got under the floor plumbing, you got your valve nests on the front. They're all set up for a low backwash system, which is what everybody's looking for. Why waste water, just runs down the drain?
Right, right. Yeah, the arsenic detention project we're working on, even the size of that crock is not going to cover what these guys need if we change the system. So, so what their proposals ask for is 65% down, which is under the $250,000 that we had budgeted for this. We have the additional money in the water department budget, but it would take a budget amendment to move some of that around. However, what they've indicated is, right now, at this point, they're looking for a commitment so they can go back to the manufacturer and say, we've got X number of municipalities or entities that want to sign up for this. So is that the appropriate thing to do then, is give you a commitment? And then Jeff, the question would be, instead of a motion to just do it, it would be a contingent motion, I guess, on the company coming back and saying, okay, we're good, we'll manufacture it, right? Is that?
Yeah, we need an actual letter of intent. That might be fine, but that means you intend to, but you might not. But what we need is some kind of commitment that you are, if they're going to start this process going, and they're going to start spending money. We haven't asked them yet, but they need, and I don't know. They may need, out of that 65%, they may need a little
retainer or some kind.
Retainer, good faith money or something like that. But let's not go into that right now, because let's find out exactly what they're going to want to get things rolling.
Okay, so we set this up tonight to go ahead and move forward, but I'm talking to these guys before the meeting. I don't know that we're quite ready to go, because the company needs the commitments. It sounds like maybe more commitments than just us.
No,
And
your
that
commitment.
you need to find out what it is they really want to show that we're sincere about this.
Your commitment will be enough for them to start it, because we're working with other companies also, other municipalities right now. But just with your commitment, they can start the ball rolling and get it going to where,
Okay.
even if the other municipalities change their mind for some reason, you would still get your product.
Okay. So what I might offer up then is that we could table this until you come back and say this is what the company would like to see. I mean, if they're willing to take less than 65%, I'm good with that. And then we would do some type of a commitment letter with the deposit or whatever, if that's what they're looking for. I think we maybe I really wanted to get this done tonight, and I'm happy to go forward with it. But I'm thinking maybe we need that information from you guys. What does the manufacturer specifically want? Does he want the 65%? That's a big
I know
chunk.
they're gonna want that before they make it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Or would just a commitment letter be okay for tonight, and then contingent upon us getting, I mean, we'll send the letter of intent that it is, I mean, I don't know, Jeff, maybe we can't do that, but.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you want something, you know, to take back to them, we could do a resolution to commit to the future purchase of, I'm not sure the proper name for it, whatever. G2 Media. Do you think they would want a commitment as to quantity or cost?
Well, the quantity, the agreement I made with them is for them to make it, we have to order 400 cubic feet at a time. And of course, your 2 vessels cover that 400 cubic feet. So they've committed to make a 400 cubic foot. Their full batch is 900 cubic feet. But I've talked to them and they will agree to do half batches.
Do you, when you came up with the pricing here of 371.76, 371.760, what does that equate to in quantity?
That's
I
the
hear that.
400.
Right.
Is that not? That's the 2 vessels, the 400 cubic feet?
We didn't hear the.
Yeah, there's
We
more
didn't hear the answer to
something.
all of them. So the 371.760, what does that equate to? in
That's
terms
the
of
2
quantity?
vessels.
Yeah.
So 2 vessels?
So what is that?
400 cubic feet.
400
400
cubic feet.
cubic.
Okay, so how about we say, to commit to the future purchase of, is it G2?
Yes.
G2 Media in the amount of 400 cubic feet.
Correct.
And then you can take that and say they've committed to purchasing this.
And I don't know, I'm just guessing, they might come along and say, all right, this is fine, but in good trust, we need $20,000 to start or something with,
A deposit, but that can be done
We
at the
can
next
deal with
meeting.
that
Yeah.
next time
Yeah.
around.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Just gets the ball started and again
Yeah.
shows sincerity
Yeah.
on our part.
good.
Yep.
So,
And we would be able to do that over the next couple of
Yeah,
days, get that to you.
Ross, I would be reluctant to, you know, until, if we're gonna start talking a down payment, I think we'd want a purchase order or
Yeah.
proposal
Yeah.
or something like that. But if this is enough to get you going, then
yes.
I think this would be good to do tonight.
Yeah.
And then, we'll keep you abreast. I guess their worry was, if they go through all this and they get to start back up, they've had other, let's call it dealers or distributors, ask the same thing. The 3 or 4 got together and said, well, let's go ahead and do it. They go ahead and do all the preliminary work, and then we say, well, we don't want to, then they spend a lot of money.
Yeah, again, we're willing to, I think, pay a down payment,
Uh-huh.
but I would not be comfortable making the down payment without a proposal.
Right.
You know, having
Sure.
to sign off on it.
Sure.
So you want the motion to be to commit to the future purchase of G2 Media in the amount of 400 cubic feet. Do you want to allow Ross to write up a letter of intent, or would this motion be enough? We can just certify
I
it.
think that motion should be enough.
I can just do a certified copy of the motion
Yeah,
and get it to you?
That'd be fine, sure.
Okay.
But you don't want a letter of intent, you want a letter of commitment.
Yeah, letter of commitment, yeah.
In other words, we're gonna do 2 of these units now
Get
for
the-
this amount of money.
Yeah.
It's far outcry from what we was told years ago.
Yeah.
Really sincerely, downright nasty. The thing is, we do 2 now, we pay this. How soon do we have to do the other 2?
I think you already said the numbers were 5 and.
Yeah. What's the numbers, Rod? I know that I have them at the top of my head. 5 and 6, I believe.
5 and 6, I think.
Right. So the discussion Wednesday, Mr. President, we discussed within 3 years. So it will take 6 months once we order for the media to be ready to go. So if we dropped an order today and the media was certified, we're ready to go today, in December, these guys, or January, they'd be coming out to swap out the media. And then, we got to build up some money in the water department budget, because we've got other priorities we've got to deal with as well. And then within a year or two, we would look to do the other two. The concern is the two that we're doing now, these are higher level readings, and every day that goes by, they become less and less effective.
See, I can't guarantee it, but the other two that are in pretty good shape now, this is going to extend their life, because now the two that need changing aren't doing much good. So you're going to help extend the life of the other two.
What we had said in here is, and I really got to spend some time with Joe, but in several years, 3 years, Joe, 3 to 4 years, the dwarf is done, and that may provide the perfect opportunity, because then we're not burdened by the bond. That'll be paid off, and that gives us more money. So that would be the hope, is to, as these guys say, to gain some life on the other two vessels, and give it a year or so. And they've indicated that it's unlikely that the proposal costs are going to go up significantly over the next couple of years. They're probably going to be set for a while, because it is high, right? And they'll be set. So it gives us a year or two to get our ducks in a row for the next two filtration vessels, get that media replaced. I would say, though, that I don't know much about the original plant, because I was not on council when that happened, but to get 16 years out of the media, and even in this case, it's going to cost more, but I'll take another 16 years out of this media, and especially if we can extend the life of the other two vessels by replacing these two, and maybe money well spent.
The main thing to remember is, we already talked about backwash rates, but from what we can find in the market, and believe me, when we first started working with this, they told me what these prices were before we got them down in price. I looked at every media on the market, and it's any water with iron in the water. You got to soften the water or take the iron out before the media can be used. And this is the only media that I know of on the market that you can use as an iron filter and as an arsenic removal system.
So in other words, in possibly 3 years, given maybe, hopefully, maybe we would get extended, we would be coming back looking at another 370,000 plus.
Yeah.
So we're talking, almost $800,000.
We've been talking about this for years.
Yeah, and like I say, it's a shame, when he started out with this $25,000 bid, is what I heard when I first came on council.
And that was all 4 vessels.
Yeah. And now this is outrageous, very nasty.
Well, I'll have to agree with you. I agree with you that it's a lot of money, and believe me, I felt the same way when I started working on this.
This is where they take the advantage of municipalities.
Well, not only municipalities, this isn't just only for municipalities, apartment houses, everything, schools. We have 29 schools that we got the equipment in.
Well, I would include them as such, sir,
Yeah.
with that too. They still are with public funds.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting at. And, we have a hard time selling stuff to our residents now because it's a hard time for them to pay. Let's face it.
I know.
We all are in the same position.
I actually know. I know what you're talking about. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I served where you people are for 14 years on the city, and I know exactly where you're coming from. So, and I think a lot of it took place where the one company bought the other company, and then another company actually held the patent, and another company actually was the one that invented it. And so the first company that bought it decided they had to pay for the company they bought somehow, so they raised the price to overcome that, so they can make it. just the way it worked out.
That's happened in 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if it's a bright spot or not, but I did put in here that I will, you know, obviously this is big dollars, and so we will look for funding options. I've been trying to get a hold of F&B because they got a guy that talks about different funding options available to municipalities, and so to have a discussion with him, you know, the bonds, an option potentially, but luckily the water department is in fairly good shape. So thanks
So in other words,
to
your
Mike.
suggestion, we'll be paying for this now with no bond business.
Right, this first 2 sets. And the intention would be to not do a bond for anything else if we can work it over several years and accumulate the dollars. Right. Again, the good news is that about the time we need the next 2 vessels done, the dwarf will be about expired, and so we won't have that on our heads.
Well, I can see the fact of, you know, getting 2 new units, they take off some of the load of the older units. So-called is what I'm reading.
Yes.
But, you know, like I said, for 2 vessels, I mean.
I know, and it's, we're in one of these proverbial rock and hard places, because there's not another good media to go to that's got its, you know, any of the other 3, I think you were saying, green sand being one of them, they have their own issues. And we don't even really know what the cost of that's going to be. Not only in terms of media, but in terms of re-engineering the plant, and all of the headaches that we would have to go through for that, yeah.
Well,
So
in other words, that would be probably a heck of a lot more
Oh,
money.
yeah.
Oh,
I would
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And that would probably be bonded then, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
It'd have to be.
All right.
Mr. President, I do have one question.
Yes.
These gentlemen, if I may. How long does it take to change these things? How long are we going to be running on 2 vessels?
You're going to be running on 2 vessels, I would say I hope not that long, but I'd say probably 2 weeks.
Okay. Makes sense.
It won't take long to change the media,
No.
but then the media comes in with a higher pH than normal.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to keep rinsing and rinsing and rinsing till the pH comes down to an acceptable level to put it on stream.
Okay.
That's where all the work comes from. So.
Okay. Just wondering. Thank you.
All right, what, does council have any, further?
I don't think so, so.
No further discussion?
Then I would make a motion that the Village of Armada commit to the future purchase of G2 media in the amount of 400 cubic feet.
Supported. And moved and supported, any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Elke?
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Sledds?
Yes.
Bullock?
No.
If you guys can then tell me if we need to do something different, or if there is a deposit or down payment or something.
I'll keep you posted.
Be the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll start.
You guys got, well, John, I think you got my phone number.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so, or you can get a hold of Michelle and she can get a hold of me.
Okay.
And we'll go from there, but please tell the company that we're committed to it. If there's additional things that we need to do to show that sincerity, then let us know.
Okay.
Also saw on the bottom, the permits are not included. Approximately how much would the permits cost? Or fees, additional fees?
Normally permits run, and I don't know what they charge for the city of Armada, but normally around $500.
We don't
See,
think
but
they're gonna
if
require a permit.
Yeah, and we may not require a permit because we're changing light media for light media. It used to be you didn't have to get a permit. But as everybody knows, we got a whole new DEQ and a lot of things have changed, and I can't say for the good, so.
I'd hate to re-engineer it. I mean, doing re-engineering drawings.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thanks for making the trip out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Drive safe.
Thank you.
Watch out
Thanks
for
for your
deer.
attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Establishment of out-of-township water use billing rate.
Okay, the chief got in touch with me several weeks ago, and Chief, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about this, but whereas in the past we were supporting Richmond Township with service on calls, and they provided some like-kind support.
They paid, didn't they?
I'm not sure if that's what I'm gonna ask.
Yeah.
But the Township of Richmond has decided not to pay for fire service at this point in time, and so they are now falling out of the general fire district.
Just to give you the history of it, so for years and years, Armada Township has provided fire protection. It's been varying the square miles we did, but the last several years it's been 6 square miles. It's also the most populated and the most expensive homes in Richmond Township that we covered. Last year, there was negotiations where it was discovered that they were literally paying 10 cents on the dollar from everyone in this room is paying for the same service. And so the supervisor met with them back then and said, hey, this isn't really appropriate. We need to talk about this. So they came up with a 1-year deal. This year they asked to renegotiate it, and they wanted somebody else to deal with it. So Mr. Paderak tried, Mr. Nichols tried. When we went in this time, the negotiations was, okay, here's the ceiling, you can't go above it. So in good faith, they've decided a dollar amount for a 3-year contract, which still is considerably less what the people here pay. And they sat on that offer for 4 months and then gave 12-day notice for us to reconsider that amount without a board meeting even being scheduled. So it kind of appears that they really didn't want Armada Township to provide service anymore. They're paying 10 cents on the dollar for fire protection in most in this entire county. It's their decision, it's their township, they can do as they wish, they just decided they didn't want to do that. But in discussions of this, it was brought up, Mr. Paderak brought it up, that there is an agreement with the village and the township for water. So if we have an emergency, whether it be in the village or in the township, that we're able to use water for that emergency. Well, while providing protection to for Richmond Township, we're taking water from the village's water over there to extinguish fires. And a couple weeks ago, we used 13,000 gallons. And Mr. Paderak brought up a very good point. This isn't fair to the village. This isn't part of the agreement. So further, one of the problems Richmond Township has going forward is they do not have their own fire department. They don't. They contract it out, which is fine. But when they call for aid, so if they have a fire more than the department that contracts for that, Bruce has to come, Washington has to come, Ray has to come. It's all based on a mutual, reciprocal response. So if I borrow a cup of sugar from you and I ask for a cup of milk back and you can't reciprocate it, that's not really fair. It's not neighborly. So the County Chiefs Association contacted them and said, look, you're not reciprocating. Everybody's coming over to help and you can't help others. So they actually have to come to agreement with every department in the area for a fee structure. That fee structure is already established through the County Chiefs Association. It's been established for years. So in that, Mr. Paderak brought up the point that, hey, they're not, this water rate isn't really appropriate either. So he asked the board to address that issue because they're going to be sending a letter to Richmond Township with a fee structure, and it's only fair that if we pull water out of the village, that the village doesn't have to rely on their taxpayers to eat that cost.
Right. So we took a look at the schedule of fees that we set 23 April for water, and we have a flat $64.17 for 5,000 gallons of use. We have a dwarf fee that gets paid by everybody, and we have potentially an administrative fee because this is fire safety, life and limb. I don't think we necessarily need to add that on, but the question from the township and the chief was, okay, if you're going to charge Richmond Township for water use out of our elevated tank, what would you charge? And so the thought was we would just simply use the flat charge of $64.17 for 5,000 gallons. It's got a multiplier in your commodity charge. So that's what's really before council. And we don't, I guess we do potentially have it in here because we've just got a commodity charge, and there would be a bill that would be presented to them, and they would have to pay the bill back to the village. But the council has an opportunity to come up with a different rate. I would argue just use the commodity charge that we got. You're not really kicking Richmond Township, you're kicking whoever's house just burned down to pay this fee. So I don't want to soak them, no pun intended. But we're really looking, and the chief is looking for what commodity charge does he now send back to them and say, this is what it's going to cost you. And so that's what's before council here. I did have a motion that looked to have Jeff go in and put an addendum to the water tank lease agreement, or put something into the ordinances, but as Jeff had indicated, it's probably much cleaner, simpler, just to put it in the schedule of fees for water that we do every year.
Resolution.
Yeah, just the resolution. And I certainly concur with that. That makes too much sense to me. Just hadn't thought about that. Comments, thoughts?
Well, it only makes sense to me.
Well, it does. I mean, I'd like to, because they can't reciprocate in any way. I don't want them, this is just rewarding bad behavior with, more of a giveaway. So I don't want to do that. On the other hand, like I said, I don't want to punish an individual resident of the township that doesn't have that's already lost a property or something like that with a high fee. And in talking with Becky, she and I both said we haven't habitually charged dwarf fees or user administrative fees to other people that come in the village and occasionally use water for construction purposes or whatever. So I would think we would not do that. Just levy the commodity charge, please.
My question would be, is the village billing the homeowner, or is the fire department billing Richmond Township and letting us know they'll collect from Richmond Township and we'll bill the fire department?
What we'll be doing is, we'll be setting a fee, itemized fee to Richmond Township.
Okay.
The bill will be, for the fire service will be us, and the water will be directly billed to you. There'll be no fees involved. It'll be simply, this is what we owe the village, this is what you owe.
So
The
they'll
township.
send it, but you're gonna send the invoice?
We'll be sending the bill,
Got it.
either through us or through a second party, but most
Okay.
likely through us.
Okay.
So there's an official bill, and then I guess it's Richmond Township then has to levy that on the homeowner, and then
It's up-
How they
it's up
get
to
billed is
them.
up to them.
Yeah, Chief, I had a question, if I may. So you mentioned that they're contracting, so, I mean, I know it's hard to predict, but if there's a fire, every fire would Armada Township be responding, or only when their contracted service can't, handle it?
That's one. The other thing is, so the way we work is, so if I get a fire in the village, I forget, we had a fire, a very tragic fire the other day, we have an immediate response. That response brings Ray Township, Bruce Township, and Washington Township, because,
Usually.
where I came from, I showed up with 15 people from the department I came from. We don't, I show up with 4. So there is an auto aid response with that. Well, there's also going to be in Richmond Township, because if they get a fire, they need tanker operations. So they're immediately going to have to call additional resources in. There's only one department contracted with areas. They split it in half. Richmond City has one half, Memphis has the other. Neither one of those departments are going to be able to handle a fire by themselves. We couldn't. Where I came from with 15 people, we still had auto aid from other companies. So, and on most structure fires, there are going to be outside agencies going there. And all of the agencies in the county are going to do the same thing as we are. The only difference is we have a water caveat.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which Richmond would too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Richmond City would too.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
Does it make sense?
Is everybody good with the rate, the standard commodity rate?
Sure. Ross, can we just say though, on the motion, rather than say to establish, can we say, what's the name of the document, Michelle, that we have?
Our perpetual lease?
No, the water.
Resolution
Water
for,
rate resolution?
Water rate. So we should say resolve to amend the water utility the rate fees and charges. So resolve to amend the village rate fee and charge resolution to incorporate an emergency water use rate of, and then just carry it on from
An emergency
there. Yeah, water use rate of.
water use rate.
Yeah, and then everything Ross has after that is fine.
okay, let's see
Oh,
if
all
I can.
right.
Yeah,
He's
right
got
there
that,
on the
yeah.
top line there.
Yeah.
All right, I make a motion to amend the village rate schedule for water utility service?
Rate fee
Rate fee,
and
rate.
change resolution. No,
Okay, well,
I can't read my mind.
Rate fees and charge.
My eyeballs are steaming up.
To establish.
To establish,
Go ahead, Jeff, you read it.
weather's bad.
So the
You had it.
the motion that Ross is going to make will be resolve to amend the village's resolution for rates, fees, and charges for water utility service to include an emergency water use rate of, I'll spare it going through all those little.
And then read the rest from there.
Per gallon, right, per gallon.
Right. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so Jeff's just using the entire title up here as well.
So essentially, we're amending our existing resolution to add this new charge.
Right, and I did put, and no other base charges or surcharges are allowed, in other words. I've talked with John about not putting a pass-through fee on there. So it's, we're doing the right thing here by providing the service, giving the water, getting paid back the fair rate of the water, and nobody, us or the township, should not be looking to make a bunch of extra money on this.
Right.
So, so the motion with no other base charges or surcharges are allowed.
All right,
Can I just read the motion, really, because I'm not going to be able to, if you don't read it, I don't feel comfortable putting it in the minutes. To amend the village's resolution for rate fee and charge resolution for water utility service to incorporate an emergency water use rate of 0.0128332038 per gallon with a minimum commodity charge per use of 64.1717 based on a minimum of 5,000 gallons of usage. No other base charges or surcharges are allowed. That's your motion.
I think you take out the extra 1.7, just $64.17.
No, that's probably a typo.
That's a typo. yeah.
Could be, I don't
Light
know
typo.
that.
No, 64.17, based on.
Did you second that, Chris?
Yes.
What is, Ross's,
And Chris seconded.
oh, Chris,
I
yeah, I'm
support.
sorry, I didn't hear.
Yep. Nothing new.
Yeah, Michelle, if it is a typo, we'll pick it up next time. But everything else seems to be in multiple decimal points.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, me either.
Becky likes to do things in
All
5,
right,
6,
the
7
motion
decimal.
is on the floor. As such, any further discussion, please? No further discussions? Roll call, please, Mark?
Elke,
Yes.
Sledge,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Jeff, thanks for the assist.
No problem.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, very good.
And I did.
Thanks.
Next is our
Thanks,
Department
Chief.
of Public Works position, please.
Thank you.
Department of Public Works position, Mr. Ballard, did you want to stress that, Mr. Clark? Mr. Bell? You're our committee.
All right, let me see what I can get to it here.
Oh, and I think you need one more motion if you're doing both.
You have to have another motion on that last one.
Oh, yeah, for the part-time.
And that water one?
On the water one, yeah.
Oh, it's, no, I thought we said, no, Ross said that.
No, and we don't need the second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Well, anyway,
Or you can just add one full-time and one part-time.
we have, the committee has been meeting, and we decided that we would like to start to advertise for a full-time employee and a part-time employee. Reason for this being is that it took us so long to get one to apply that we might as well get it started now. And we do have an impending retirement coming from the village in April, I believe it is. And so if we start now, we're going to be ahead of the game. So that being said, is there any questions to how you want to do this?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Thank you.
So we're looking to add a full-time and a part-time person.
That's correct.
So in the end, you'll have 3.5 people working
Yeah.
rather than
Three.
three. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So be it resolved to give the clerk authority to advertise one full-time Department of Public Works employee and one part-time Department of Public Works employee until.
You want to say until positions are filled?
Till positions are filled.
Until interviews begin or?
Until positions are filled.
Yeah, I think it's.
Are you looking to put these people in place this budget year?
Hopefully not. Not until next budget year.
Do you have wages or anything in mind?
We've got some in mind, but we don't want to put that in this motion right now.
You're not bringing anybody in to train under ed?
Well, yeah.
So you would be bringing somebody
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this budget year?
Well, no.
Okay, all right, okay,
We don't-
all right, we don't need to
Yeah.
talk anymore, I'm just asking. Okay.
I think it's telling that in the Village of Armada water sanitary survey done back in November, it was pointed out that the work that the department has to do now exceeds the ability of the people to physically do the work. So clearly we need to get some more warm bodies in the DPW.
All right, and the ads that I gave you are good?
Yes, they look very
Right.
well.
So are we saying that the existing person in that position at this time isn't capable of doing the work as one person?
No, what we're saying is that we need more bodies in there after the retirement hits. We're going to need at least 1.5 more bodies because of as Ross pointed out, there's things that weren't being done because the guys didn't have the time to do them.
You're talking on the laborer side,
On all sides, I would say, correct, Ross?
Yes, on all
Thank you.
sides. Now, we're still working on the piece that deals with Ed's retirement. But this is talking about the rest of the department. Right. So we've got to bring that up at another meeting. I don't know that we want to get into it here at this point, but this is for the time where the department fundamentally changes because of Ed's retirement, what we do to replace him or be able to do the work that he does.
So you just think it's gonna take that long? I mean, you
It-
find
it
someone,
could.
no one's gonna sit around until March when they get the job offer today.
No, but I think that, well, we had Vic, the last guy we hired, I think he came in and within 2 weeks, he was at work, wasn't he? 3 weeks at the tops?
3 weeks.
It might have been 3 because he had
You
another.
forget a
Yeah.
permit.
So, I mean, it takes that long for people to come in.
But honestly, it takes a long, I mean, in the past, I mean, things might be different now given our current situation, but in the past, we put those ads out for months, and nothing. I mean, I'm gonna put it in the not just the record. I'll put it in, maybe in Macomb Daily or something, because, but I don't want to run those ads continually, because
Right.
that's going to get very costly.
Get very costly.
It's going to be costly in the record, but when you go outside of that, the Voice, I think, covers more of our area, so possibly with them too, but it's going to get costly to run this every week.
Sure.
And
So,
when are we starting this ad?
As soon as possible.
Okay, so we start an ad next week.
Okay.
Somebody calls. They want to know what the job entails. They want to know what the wage is. What are we doing?
give Lyle's number.
Yeah, give them one.
Well, my point is, somebody
Yeah.
has to talk to me at some point.
Right.
You're right.
Yep, they're
That-
gonna talk
that's
to,
what we're
most
gonna do.
likely Becky.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we need to know how to structure budgets. And 1.5 people is more than I've ever, to this point, budgeted for a new addition. So, keep the communication going.
Yep, oh yeah.
Well, we'll have to put some requirements in there too, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah, there
the
is.
one that there is,
There is in both. One requires water licensing with all the
Right.
guys do in 3 to 4 years. The other one for the part-timer is not going to require that, so I took that out. So both the ads are both a little
Very good.
different.
I thought you'd be on top of it.
Yeah.
So do we need support for that on our end?
There's a motion on the table, but there has been a second.
No support?
Support.
No?
By Shaw. Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? I'm gonna have roll call on this one, please.
Baylor?
yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Sledds?
Yes.
Delkey?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Wallach?
Yes. Motion carried. Next will be D, convene a panel to review village sidewalk policy.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
And
President.
all that other stuff.
As you may remember, this is a tabled issue from the last meeting. At the last meeting, we approved some slight modifications to the current sidewalk sale policy. We did not touch the sidewalk cafe ordinance, and it doesn't really apply necessarily to the special event policy. When I talked to the Chamber and ABA about their perspectives on looking at the policies to make short-term changes for purposes of COVID restart, they all indicated that, or they both indicated that the policies were, they didn't understand them very well, they seemed to be conflicting, and they could be made more user-friendly. As a business owner, I took a look at them from that perspective. I would have to say they could be simplified, and they could potentially be put under one umbrella. I guess we can debate whether they should be an ordinance. I mean, Jeff brought up a good point, and you make them an ordinance, it's a point of law now. The problem that I would see with that is you get into another situation like we had, and you would have to then publish an ordinance change, and you'd have to do other things to change any of the policies for a short period of time. So maybe a policy makes them more agile or easier to change if we need to adjust it. In any case, both the ABA and the Chamber did not talk to any of the nonprofits, indicated they would welcome an opportunity to take a look at the policies, understand better why the village does what it does, why they want what they want, and that might make it easier for them to comply with without raising concerns all the time. I personally don't think it's a bad thing to do, and I think given that I went through it and made a matrix and looking at the different requirements, there are areas that we could clean up and simplify. I do want to stress, and Jeff brought it up in my conversations with him. The motion that I wrote last time, I guess it made it look like I was looking for this committee to make the decisions. Absolutely not. The committee is simply advisory, but I think they need to appreciate why we do the things we do, why we ask for insurance, for example, why we have space constrictions on the sidewalk and stuff like that. And in talking to different businesses, they don't all get it. They don't all understand it. And if you went to the policies or the ordinance, in some cases it is not clear. And I don't think there's anything wrong with spelling out why we do certain things. On the other hand, I think we should put in those policies that, given the things that we have to do to protect the village, that we want the businesses to succeed and have an opportunity to market themselves perhaps more than we currently do. So, in any case, that's what this motion is about, is just to set up a committee, and I would be happy to be on it, or the president can pick somebody else. I don't have to be on it, to go through the 3 policies with a representative sample of the business community and the nonprofits. Nonprofits looking potentially at the special events, but some of the businesses have also talked to me about holding special business events. So let them take a look at it, see what their concerns are, and we can maybe simplify the policies and put them all under one cover somehow. But I would be happy to take that on if council wants to do that. I would look to the president to determine who he wants as part of that committee. And I would think we would have Ben or somebody out of planning on it and so on.
Well, my opinion is as such. Previous councils over the years looked at this very strictly. They came up with the best policies that they could come up with. And now we have new people. Have they come into our office? I have a question. Have they come into office to ask our ladies, our clerk or whatever, to see what these are? They
No,
haven't.
they have not.
No.
And I'm not gonna,
That's what's gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
Are the businesses waiting to pull an application for these crucial yard sidewalk sales that they wanted?
Because nobody's been
Because
in.
no one's
Well,
doing it.
but I would assume that if they come in, you're gonna just say, here's the permit, or here's the policy, and if you read some of those, to me, again, it doesn't make good sense. I mean, there are pieces that are not, there's nothing in there about the viability of the business, anything that you're gonna do for the, how you're gonna support the business. It could be something that could go in there. There are, I'm trying to remember this now, I don't have the darn form in front of me. I had this.
If I were a business and I'm applying for a sidewalk permit and you're gonna ask me what's my viability, how strong is my business, I'm gonna tell you pound sand. I don't, stuff like that, that's not what a sidewalk.
Well, let me just tell you, so
Sidewalk
if,
sales gonna ask.
if you think that kind of point resonates well with the businesses, they're gonna watch this on the camera and they're gonna see, well, the village is saying, well, tell us to go pound sand.
Oh, I can
No,
watch
she
it.
said she would
Because we
tell
don't
you.
understand it. Again, this is, I'm not arguing with what has been done in the past. I'm saying an opportunity exists to simplify and clarify why the village is asking for certain things and make it easier for a business to negotiate the process. Why for a cafe, and somebody posited the reason, but why for a cafe? You go before planning, and then planning grants you or gives you permission to do it for the entire season, a 6 or 8 month season. But if you're a store, you can't do a sidewalk sale, but for 7 days or 5 days, and then you got to do another permit request and get more insurance for that. I mean, it just doesn't make good common sense to me. So
I think the reason that was done was due to, do you want sidewalk sales constantly downtown? Do you, I mean, that's a legitimate.
It's a valid question.
It is.
But the businesses then say, well, okay, so you're telling me that I can't find ways to promote myself and make myself successful And if I'm successful, then the village is successful because
No,
they're
I
making money
disagree
off
with
of it.
that. I don't think that we're telling anybody that they're not, that we don't want to be successful. Look, this right here is from 2018, when we went through this sidewalk sale policy. The reason the sidewalk sale policy even exists is because Dennis tried to enforce the ADA 6-foot setback and was told to pound sand, okay? So that's why that entire policy was even looked at or started.
Okay.
When we started out, Jeff and I worked on it very diligently. Jeff incorporated it into the whole special event permit application. We were told by said business owners then, that's too cumbersome. We don't want it. So we took it out and made it a standalone because it put all of the requirements that you're required to do in it. That way, if somebody comes in to our office, to any one of us three, and says, hey, I want to do a sidewalk sale. Here's your sidewalk sale permit. There you go. I want to do a sidewalk cafe. Now that one has been an ordinance since probably, I don't know, Jeff, probably the beginning of time. But that one, we've had one business that does that, and that's Cozy's, and she does it every year. All right? The special event permits are for Four Corners, for parades, for sesquicentennials, for holidays, that type of stuff.
Well, again, just so you know, you've got businesses that are asking me, and I'm going to turn them around and have them come in and talk to you guys then about doing special activity for their business, not a sidewalk sale, but other things. Now, I don't
If
know
it's
what they
inside
have
their
in mind.
building,
No,
if they
it
want
would
to
be-
use public property, then yes, they would have to come
It'd be,
before us.
what's the word I'm looking for? Special event policy.
Yeah.
That they want to do special events, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, any of those guys could potentially use it or come in and ask about it. They're asking me as the council business liaison, and they've asked me, is there a way to simplify this stuff? So all I can do, because I can't really comment on the past and what went before, all I can do is bring it to you guys and say, they're asking for it.
Well,
And
I'm a little put back by them, by what you're saying, that they come to you and they've said that this is really cumbersome when they've never even called the office to talk to any of us. How are we supposed to know there's an issue prior to it becoming, hey, let's form a committee and do all this work that we've already done?
Right. I do try very hard when I have these conversations to lay out the village's perspective on this stuff. I don't just roll over and say whatever you guys want to do. I do try to.
You can't, yeah.
I do try to
Yeah.
explain the other side of the story, and I do ask, well, have you gone in and asked somebody? Well, we did, and they didn't have time for us, or they gave us this. or-
No.
So I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not there every day.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
So this
we
is-
are.
I'm
Yeah.
just telling you what I'm hearing, all right? And
Well, and we have boards, we have legal advice, I mean,
I
we
got
didn't
it.
just throw a couple of things together and say, okay, that's a policy.
I'm
There's
not
a lot of
saying
time,
anybody.
a lot of attention, a lot of money
Yeah.
put into that, and now we're supposed to let, if somebody doesn't like it, okay, you critique it, and we'll change it for you.
It's just like
That's not right.
when
That's what
we,
you guys are here for, that's why you're elected into
That's what
this
you're paid for.
position, is to make those decisions.
Right.
If you're just gonna throw it out to businesses or throw it out to
No, I'm
special
not.
purpose,
I'm taking an opportunity to try to lend an ear to what are their issues, what are their concerns, and which is, again, that's why you have somebody from council there and somebody from planning, and then you just bring it back to council and say, okay, here's what everybody, and I gotta tell you, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit extra participation. It's not that you didn't try to do it before, but in this current environment, they're looking for opportunities to work better with the village. We've got some new leadership on at least the chamber. So they're looking for opportunities. You heard Sue when she was in here, Susan asked about signs, so that'll probably be the next thing they get hit up with. I don't think it's a bad thing if council has final discretion to say, all right, go out and let's find out what people have a hot button about, and let's see if there's something that we can do to not give away the village, but make some common sense, simple changes, right?
Well, I would say
think that's all they're asking for.
Instead of setting a committee then to change the policies, why don't I mean, as a business liaison, wouldn't Ross have the ability to just meet with them and say, hey, what are your concerns, and then bring them back?
I can't, Ross is getting tapped out, right? I can't even get that.
Well,
stuff
you
done.
offered to do it.
No, I got it, because I think it's important, and they are talking to me now, because we've established this position, and
Put it
you
in
guys
writing,
have said,
bring
hey,
it
you got
here.
a guy, go talk to him, so I'm happy to do
I would
that.
have them put it in writing, that way you don't, I mean, put it in writing. The Chamber of Commerce would like to see this happen in the village, or the ADA would like to see this.
Yeah, okay, and that's fine. It's
And then
just-
let's see if it applies to any of our policies, because we have made them
Right.
simple.
As much as I like to think I know everything and I'm good at everything, I'm not. And so having somebody from planning to support me and give me a different perspective, because I don't, I was
Well,
on
planning,
planning
the
for a
only
long
thing
time.
that is planning related is the sidewalk cafe. The other ones are just they're very administrative. And like I said, if somebody calls up and says, hey, this is what I want to do, any one of us three can say, oh, you need this then.
Well,
You
right.
need this permit.
I'm not really discussing what their proposed event is. I'm discussing the policy. What do they have to do to go through? I guarantee you, one of the things that they didn't want to do is call up their insurance company, every other week, because they want to have a
Well, and
sidewalk.
we amended that by telling them they could pull it for the whole season.
We did this time around, but after this season is over, it goes away, and this was for COVID. It was not for any other reason.
Well, and we had
other
a
than
lot of
were trying
we
to-
had a lot of discussion about that, because the insurance has to be carried by the business owner, because the residents of this village should not have to pay for that.
No, nobody's
So
saying that.
that's why it's set up like that.
No.
Correct me, Jeff,
Well,
if I'm wrong.
I just, let me just.
Yeah, I'd like to have
So, I think what I'm hearing, and I tend to agree with this, is that the direction that the business community, that you sense they want to go in, is to make it more administrative, less, council involvement, things like that. And I don't think that, I don't think there's anybody on council that's not willing to improve the process if it can be improved. I just don't know if we really need a committee to get there, because I looked at your matrix, you did a lot of work already. Michelle and I, as she indicated, wrote it up originally. So I just think, in my mind, if we're going that direction and we're trying to get it out of a more formal ordinance and things like that, I just don't know if we need a committee to do that.
I'm
And
open to
let me
that.
finish though.
Yeah.
What I think the advantage is of kind of keeping it here in terms of drafting it, we do have you in that role to take it back and say, this is why you said, well, somebody explain it. I can't think of a better person to explain why we do what we do. But I don't think it needs to go outside, the administrative function. These three ladies know way more than any of us, and I can't imagine anybody in the business community is going to know how to process and why we do things than these three ladies. So, do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
No, well, I'd be happy to talk to them then.
yeah.
If, whatever process, and the committee is just what came to mind, but any type of mechanism that we can get some inputs from people, what don't you like, what don't you like, what would make it easier, what would make it simpler, so that, because we're telling them they can do this stuff, right? So if they can do it, why would we arbitrarily make it difficult to do it? Let's make it as easy and simple,
I don't
right?
find it
Because the
difficult.
decision is, if we only want them to do it a couple times a year, then let's say that. But then you got to give a reason.
Well,
Really?
like yard sales, garage sales, you can only have them on certain days of the week and the weekend, or the week of the fair.
Yeah, because that's
The
consistent with.
The village in
Yeah.
100 years ago said, hey, we don't want somebody having a perpetual yard sale,
No, I
garage sale.
got it. It
So
makes-
that's, I'm sure when whoever came up with that idea, which wasn't me, that's why it was
Because we
put
probably have
together.
perpetual yard sales.
Yes.
We did. We definitely did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my point is, it's like nobody here is against businesses. Everybody wants everybody to succeed. Everybody wants everybody to be happy. But there's still, are steps that need to be taken.
No,
You know?
I got it.
And the sidewalk sale doesn't even come to council. The special event does, because generally that involves people being in the roadway, people, the police people shutting down roads, crowds of people. So that comes before council. The Sidewalk Cafe, we never see that. The planning commission does that. I don't understand why that is the way it is. And I'm sorry, but like I said, the one, Cozy's does it every year. That's why she doesn't have to come back to them every year. She just does what she needs to do.
No, I know, because it says one time, and then it's good for the season, whatever the season.
Well, see, something like that, Ross, they gotta talk to this lady. She's been so satisfied over the period of years, and I think they should talk to her,
I mean,
her ideas.
As long as
I mean,
nothing changes.
she hasn't complained.
Spades.
I got no complaints from Cozy's.
Yeah, okay.
No, and the whole, bringing it, because, this was brought forward because we've all, we've been shut down. And yes, that's been devastating. We didn't shut you down, the governor shut you down. It's like, this isn't our doing.
Well,
And yes, it's hard to rebound from that, and absolutely give some leeway, but now it sounds like you're talking about taking the COVID-related reason we brought it, or you brought it forward. Now it sounds like next year you're talking about, it's not COVID-related, let's just take that restriction off.
Right, and that was my understanding too, was that initially the businesses came in looking for
Help. Yeah.
some assistance, exception for a short term of the season to have sidewalk sales to
Extending
help
season.
bring their wares out where people are
No,
afraid to go
that's-
in or
that's a
not
fact.
allowed to
That's
go
true.
in the building. Now we're looking at changing the policy and rewriting it and getting input. They're gonna lose their season this year. They actually have
Yeah, come in and
sidewalk sale.
pull the permit.
Well, I would
And
just-
no one's even putting
I
question for me.
would tell you that both of those organizations, and I can only assume based upon represented by, a few people that I've talked to afterwards, were elated that council was willing to consider something that they brought before council. So, I
Well,
don't
again,
think
they're hearing that it's cumbersome, but nobody's calling and asking what the process is. So
Or
we
telling us what the
explain, it's not
cumbersome part
cumbersome, it
about.
really isn't,
And
That's
Ross,
my thing, they're not
Ross,
saying what's cumbersome, they're
Right.
just saying it's too hard. What's too hard?
Well,
Too hard.
yeah, and again, I don't know
Okay,
where the information's coming from.
we, again, as the council business liaison, I've not dug into every factoid that somebody's put in front of me, right? All I'm saying is this is the kind of the consensus I get when I've attended some of the meetings of these groups. And my own personal look at the three policies, to me, shows me that they could be simplified, consolidated, condensed a little bit, with strong rationale as to why we do what we do, right? Down to if you want certain specific insurance language, you could write it, and that's all they got to give to the insurance company, otherwise they're trying to figure it out. And if Ben has certain things that he sees they violate all the time, he can come up with his top 10 list of don'ts when you have a sale, right?
Well, the sidewalk
another-
policy has that, because we went through a lot of it, but the insurance
Well-
language, that can be, that's a policy change, that's just administrative, Becky or I could do that, like, it's not,
I thought,
it didn't,
I thought Brandon Salen said he gets, remember we were talking
Yep.
about insurance, he goes, that's easy, I get that all the time.
right, it's the indemnification, we took off the
And we took the
indemnification,
I thought-
because
Yeah,
we negotiated
Yeah.
with the then powers that be.
Okay.
They weren't happy, but, but it is, these policies are put in place to protect the business, the business community and the residents. Nobody,
No,
you know,
I understand.
when, you don't want anybody to have to go out in the street because somebody's not abiding by the 6-foot setback. If somebody, God forbid, somebody walked into the street and got hit, well, there you go. So, it's all put in place as protection measures. It's our job to make sure that the residents are represented.
Right, so the question on the table is, if everybody feels that what we got now is sufficient and gives appropriate levels of detail and understanding to everybody, then we can move on. I'm just making an offer here that I can take a look at it, and it doesn't have to be a committee. It could be another mechanism where I come back in and say, in talking with people, here's what we might recommend council consider, and as this said, for consideration and possible adoption, right? So at the end of it, I may not even agree with it, right? I'm just telling you.
I think
have a-
that's fair. I mean, if you want to talk to people and bring in their concerns,
Or find out what it is
Well,
that's
no, at the
covered
same
somewhere.
time, what you're going at is ultimately the business wants to do anything they want to do anytime they want. It's going to come into the COVID thing, and I was going to ask Jeff, it started with something that Washington Township did.
yes.
What did they do to, let's say, override or rewrite?
I'm guessing, again, the thing that a
You
lot
can't
of
compare us
communities
to
do with.
Washington.
I'm not, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, in general, what did, you know, yeah.
Under the state of emergency, the township supervisor, the village president, the mayor, or the city manager, they have the ability, under emergency circumstances, to override a charter or an ordinance for a limited, so they issue an order, just like the governor. Those executives of their respective communities can issue an order that says, I'm suspending this, so what you can do is, that I guess they're calling them inside-out sales, where you're taking things that traditionally happen inside the brick and mortar and you're allowing them to come out into parking lots where, setbacks may apply and things like that. You say, we're going to eliminate that to help these businesses out. Again, that's largely COVID related, and as you know, Macomb County ended their state of emergency, so these things are starting to relax, and I don't know if we necessarily have that immediate flexibility. But look, the bottom line is, I don't think anybody on council doesn't think you cannot do better. I mean, if you have to have constant improvement, right? You've got to be looking to make things better. I don't think anybody doesn't think we can do certain things better. I just, again, my only reservation would be when you create a committee, there's an expectation that you're going to see something change.
Right.
And I don't want to disappoint that committee, because this is really ultimately, it has to happen in this room
Yes.
that is going to vote on it. And I think the worst thing we could do is give this expectation that, yeah, we can relax that, or we can't. As Michelle or Becky or Joe said, there's usually specific reasons we have insurance and indemnification. So I think we're talking more about process than substance.
Yeah.
And I just think, I think Michelle and I probably feel like, yeah, there's probably things we probably tweak and do better. At the same time, we just need to know what the expectation is, and you're the person, it sounds like, that can deliver that. And so we can see what we can do, but I just don't know if a committee, for the reasons I said, makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I certainly think, you have that ability to carry the message back to them. This is what we do and why we do it. But I think, again, it's more process at this point. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but,
One of the things he said was the team needs to know why these things are here. The message is we put these, here's these policies in place. Why do you have to do X, Y, and Z? Even if it's for your own
Well, and again,
education.
call the office. I mean, any one of us can answer those questions. If we can't, we can get you the answer.
I think it would be good to have it standardized, so it's the same for everybody, anybody who looks at it at any time. Here, this explains why
It
we
is.
do these things, right? Yeah,
It really is. They have that policy right now, and they done a good job of it. It took them so long. And like I was gonna say, Chris has been on the planning commission. He's worked with it very diligently. And he knows. And I don't think that, because that would sort of say, hey, he didn't do his job. I think they did
Oh, no,
this.
I spent a lot of years on planning myself, and I'm still on ZBA, so I do know as well.
They have to do a lot of planning for themselves. I was in retails for 18 and a half years. And, I had to do a lot of planning myself. The city of Port Huron did not grant me, this, wish, and that.
No, Ben put me through the ringer when I came before him for my business, so I get it.
Well, early on, when the businesses came to the meeting, I think the whole council was actually very willing to consider the COVID exceptions.
No, they were very happy.
If they were legal and they didn't infringe on the ADA and put the village
Yeah.
at extreme liability.
Yeah. No,
But we just needed to know, what is it that you want the exception on? Do you need more than the 6 foot
Right.
Can't do that, that's ADA.
I don't-
Now,
I don't-
but we still need to know what it is that they're expecting that we can do
Yeah, well,
for them.
that's why I said.
No,
go back
well,
and
Well,
look
exactly,
at
it's
it.
like you want to use like the public parking lot for you.
Exactly. No one's coming and saying, oh, yeah,
Those
you can
things,
use that area.
That's all, those are creative things to do, but, you know, if nothing's presented, then there's not much you can do about it.
Right.
Okay, well, what would be then, use Marvin's term, what would be council's wishes then on this? And I certainly agree committee is not the only way to do it. I don't want to make it a bitch fest either. I don't want to be the pincushion for everybody to come and poke me, right?
Exactly.
Well, I think too, Ross, I mean, these are your liaison. I mean, you have to listen a lot.
I
You know,
do.
and you don't make judgments at these organizational meetings.
Oh, I'm not passing any judgments. I spend a lot of time defending the rationale behind why the village does certain things, because I just don't think a lot of the business owners necessarily understand it or have taken the time to investigate it. So, I
Open
mean,
door, anytime,
I got it.
yeah.
All right,
I got it.
well, I'd like to move on.
I said, is there a motion here, or are we saying basically,
Yeah.
what Ross tell you, you're
Let him,
Business
I
owners
say,
apply for whatever you wanna apply for.
get what they're looking for in writing and bring it in. I mean, you know, just bring it to me. I mean, I can look at it, look at the policy and see maybe where we can make that administrative change, you know?
I mean, the sidewalk, as you mentioned, that sidewalk cafe has to be 30 years on our books.
What do other communities do for outdoor dining, do you know?
Well, again, with the qualifier, it's very different now because of.
No, I mean, and normally.
I would say, again, thinking back, the reason and I think I mentioned this to Ross or possibly to you, the reason I think it ended up in the ordinance, Michelle, is that we had sidewalk regulations to begin with. And it's weird, I mean, I don't know how this ever happened, but the public sidewalk runs right up to their doorstep, you know? So the moment a person steps out of the business, they're on public sidewalk, and I just think that's where we put it because that
Anywhere
was-
that they would have any sidewalk.
No, I'm saying,
Cafe would be
but
a.
we put it in the ordinance because we had sidewalk regulations. So it's
Okay.
just, to me, I think we did it because it was a natural extension of other sidewalk regulations. We didn't have special events, we didn't have.
Right, that's all new.
Right. You know, the other things that we've been talking about. So I'm not gonna sit here and say something that's been on the books for 30 years, let's not look at it.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
I certainly think we can, like I said, constant improvement. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we can take a look at it.
Well, then I will, no motion involved, but I will informally start asking some questions and bring back some recommendations to council.
Or
to consider.
questions.
Or questions, yeah. The one thing I would say is the business community is happy that council gave them the opportunity to do some things in the COVID environment we're in now, and looks forward to the opportunity to work with council some more. So I'd like to keep it going. I think that that's the right message. I think it's a good thing to do.
well, I feel bad that they even thought that that wouldn't even be a consideration from council, you know? And that's a shame because there's no animosity here. There's not,
Right.
you know?
But you see the vibe on some of the Facebook sites.
Yes,
You know, some of these
but
organizations,
that's not the business community.
No.
It's
Not
not.
necessarily in our community.
Right.
Ross, I want to say, Jude, and some of these organizations now in the past, I know, they came in here, they didn't even live in our community, they're blasting, you know, the council, which is not right, I feel.
Well, I tell them that that's not appropriate either, especially if
Why would
you
they
don't
even,
live
why would they
here.
even have them in the organization?
Yeah.
You know, if they're not residents or local, you know, hey, they don't belong here.
Yeah,
You can have them come in,
the reality,
listen or whatever they want.
right,
That's
no, I
not,
understand.
that's not refusing, you know.
The reality is though that sometimes the people that make anything happen on the organizations are the people from out of town. Because the people that live here, that are business owners in some cases, aren't that energetic.
They just don't want to deep as here sometimes.
Okay, well, I will do some informal work on this and bring something back to council. I appreciate that you guys were willing to consider it.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's go with number E here.
How about we just let Becky take the floor? She'll be quick, 'cause minutes.
Yes,
Because we made her wait till the end.
Put you up on number
Yeah.
one.
this has been prepared by our treasurer, Joe, and so Becky is here. She can tell us all about it. She's been working on it.
And she attended the webinar, so she is the most
Yeah.
appropriate person to discuss this.
Yeah.
Beginning of July, the governor signed Senate Bill 690, which made available funds for municipalities to, a way for them to get some money that they might be losing. Some of it, well, all of what I'm going to talk about has to do with first responders. The first one is actually public safety and public health payroll reimbursement program. We have nothing to do except file this application, and we can get reimbursed all of our payroll for our police department for April and May. Currently, by my calculations, it's $49,356.95. And all we have to do is file this. Again, it's a way for local municipalities to get some money. They've just got to fill out the application. This one has to be filed by July 17th, which is this Friday. This one, there's, I believe it's $200 million set aside for this program. They will take all the applications that they receive on time. If it exceeds the $200 million, then they'll all be prorated. If it's less than the $2 million, you're going to get what you apply for. That's this one. That's separate entirely.
First motion.
The second one is First Responder Hazard Pay Premiums Program. If you chose or choose to pay a premium to your first responders, your police, your EMT, your fire, we only have police, a premium, something over and above their normal wage, they have created a program that you can submit for reimbursement up to $1,000 per person. You can appropriate it any way you want. You can do a per hour rate. You can say, as some of the larger departments do, we're just going to appropriate $100 or $1,000 to each person. That's entirely up to the municipality. This one is a first come, first served basis, and the faster you get your application in, the more apt you are to be approved. This program, we have to pay them and then get reimbursed by the state. Now, the chief and I went over, it will cover any hours from March 1st to December 31st. However, we have to pay it by September 30th. So the chief thought it would be a good idea to do a per hour so that only those officers, since we're predominantly part-time, only those officers that worked during the height of the pandemic were really being rewarded. So I made a spreadsheet that this is how many hours they each worked for the 90 days of what the state of emergency, from when it started to when it's currently due to expire. And came up with a spreadsheet, multiplied it times $2 an hour to up to $1,000 for those that were over, which a couple full-timers, one of our part-timers is going to reach $1,000 as well. I have to pay this by September 30th, but I don't have to pay that before I apply. So I'd like to apply, which that total would be $5,721. I'd like to apply, that's what I'm asking council to allow us to apply, to submit the application. We would get approval before they'd ever be paid. If for some reason, if I fax it over there in the next 5 minutes and we're too late, we don't have to pay our guys. This is what I'm
It's an
suggesting.
incentive to do it.
Correct, that we would. And then in reality, the bottom line, it zeroes itself out. You might have to put it up front, but they're gonna send us that money back.
That has to be by July 17th?
No, this
No,
one I
this is
have until
September.
September 30th,
Oh,
but this one is a first come, first served.
Yeah.
So the faster I get it in, the higher my chances of being approved.
Mike,
So-
I will say, you know, most communities are very much trying to get both of them filed this week,
Yeah.
because for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I had another webinar this afternoon at noon, and They said that they had a lot of, received a lot of both applications over the weekend, but they did say, you know, please get your application in because we're nowhere near our maximum yet. So I brought it today. These are all filled out. They just need the signatures and I can fax them over.
Can I just make one clarifying point, just so just everybody knows, to get the payroll for April and May, you cannot get credit for anything that you get otherwise reimbursed. So just point of clarification, just so everybody's clear, the premium pay, you can't apply for that for the, you know, if we pay the premium pay, you can't get that reimbursed for obvious reasons through the other program. Because you're getting reimbursed through a different bucket of
One
money.
or the other.
So
And
it's one
this
or the other.
program, actually, the entire payroll for April and May, if there's money left over out of that $200 million bucket, after everybody applies for April and May, then they'll open it up for June and July
Okay.
for the balance of the funds. So
Okay.
that would then be another application if there's money left.
Yeah.
So, but
good.
Well, that makes sense.
All right, so
I've already talked to Becky too. These papers will be signed tonight by me, and she can get them out the first thing tomorrow.
We still get one tonight.
all right, good. All right, so Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the village president to sign and file the application required to secure reimbursement of hazard pay to eligible police personnel through the First Responder Hazard Pay Program, and approve an amendment to the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to reflect the payment of the hazard pay and reimbursement through the First Responder Hazard Pay Program.
Support.
Wow.
Support by
Ballard or Clark?
Ballard.
Okay.
Which do you hear first?
I heard both at the same time, but Steve, you second that next motion.
Yeah. All right. Down, I'll set that. Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the village president to sign and file the applications required to secure reimbursement of eligible police payroll expenditures incurred during the months of April, May, June, and July 2020 through the Public Health Payroll Reimbursement Program.
Support.
By Ballard.
There you go.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Becky.
Very good, thanks, Becky.
Next is the old business. Sewer plant update. Do you have anything, Mr. Clark, please?
I do. Things are moving along down there. 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting on the computer with vendors and engineering company. 2 weeks ago, we met at the plant with contractors. And last week, we met again at the plant with the contractors that are figuring out the logistics, where they're gonna put office trailer, where they're gonna store equipment and such. So I expect that they'll probably be breaking ground there in the next 2 weeks. I also had a quick meeting. I stopped in and saw the fire chief, let him know what's going on down there. And I want to have him and a couple of his captains take a tour of the plant so they're familiar with everything down there. So I'll get that arranged. So things are looking up. And one of the first things that should get done will be the new generator, which we really need down there. In fact, you know, what we've gone through this last week, a couple of power outages, the guys have to go down there and babysit the generator as it stands, so it'll be nice to have something that'll run the whole plant.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Okay, very good. Ross, anything in fire department?
Will Disser has acknowledged receipt of the cross-connection control plan. Got a note from him today. He complimented the village. He does have a question I need to look into, but he's got it and he's happy. So anytime we can keep Eagle happy, that's probably a good thing. We're successful. Thanks, Michelle, for helping do some pry-in work on the county with respect to the arsenic detention easement. What I did get back from Pete Jensen, who's one of the lawyers on the corporate counsel up there, is going back and forth between doing a lease or an easement, and he finally came back and said, easement's gonna be the way we'll go, but I need a property description of the parcel that is gonna be adjacent to where the containment vessel would go. So, Michelle, I'll work with you and come up with that.
Okay.
Location, you may have to maybe help with the.
That's something I can do for you, Ron.
Oh, okay, Joel, I'll call you.
I was gonna throw it at you, but I didn't. It's kind of late, so I said,
Okay.
I can throw it at you tomorrow.
No, that's perfect, appreciate that. And Steve and I talked a little bit about this one. There's a single water line that goes to the wastewater treatment plant. That is, it's a 4-inch main, it's in sad shape, it busted twice in a 1-week period a couple weeks ago, and really got to keep an eye on that. And the water reliability study was listed as the #1 thing we should replace. And I was frankly going to kick the can a little bit and replace something in one of the residential areas, but given that line now, the cost for that, as assessed in the reliability study, was $190,000. So it's a chunk. It's one line, but it feeds your coolers, you know, chillers or whatever you got down there. And
Well, I did talk to Ed, I think that represented, what, a 6 or 8 inch line?
it was an 8-inch, and so we could probably
Ed
get
said the 4-inch should be sufficient, so I would imagine the price could be a little lower. So I'll have to get with Doug Skyless, and maybe we'll have our first change order already down there at the plant. They're gonna be excavating, they're gonna be putting pipe in. So I would think one of those contractors already on site would be more than happy to do it, and maybe we could get a break.
It might be a combination of water,
Yeah.
sewer department fix, but yeah, I think that line's got to be replaced sooner rather than later. That's all I got.
Good, thank you. Up and coming agenda items, any?
Michelle, I have a tax foreclosure, first right of refusal to go next.
I
meeting.
can't hear you, Joe.
I have a tax foreclosure, first rights of refusal to go on the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Anything else? If not, there's no citizens in the audience that I see. So we will pass on that. And council comments at this time.
I'd just like to thank the DPW, they did a good job on taking care of the trees, and I'd also like to thank Hardin Tree Trimming, they helped our guys out. We had a tree across the road that was overnight, and Saturday morning they got it out of there, so it was a good job.
Yeah, they did a great job.
A nasty storm.
What's that?
All right,
Nasty
and also,
storm.
is that it?
Yep.
All right, I have a letter also, which was sent to me from the Lioness Club of the Armada Lions, in other words. They voted, in other words, to disband effective June 30th of this year due to the changes made by the Lions International. In other words, the Lioness groups will not be able to operate under their current structure after, in other words, June 2021. So restrictions caused by the virus, in other words, have greatly hindered their fundraising abilities. So leading to this decision, they decided to disband now, and rather than waiting till 2021. They're expressing that they've had a heavy heart for Armada, in which we have really supported our, local organizations. And it's sad that we have to, receive this letter that they have to disband.
Yeah.
So I think in accordance, they've done a lot of good over here for the last years that they've, participated. So with that, I would like to say, we're very sorry that the Lioness have to disband. And so we wish them well in the future if they decide to come back with, another organization pertaining to the Lions. So this was signed by Ann Porter, which she was president of the Lioness.
Yeah, I'd say thank you. They've done some amazing things. I was very fortunate to have been a part of that organization for a few years. And amazing group of women. It's really too bad.
So
Their
we
role in our
will-
community has been a job well done.
Yeah, excellent job.
So we will make this a matter of record and file.
Yep.
Any community events to be announced as such?
Concerts in the park.
Yeah, concerts in the park,
Wednesday night,
Wednesday night,
Be
7
there,
o'clock.
be square.
so anything else? There will be no closed session tonight, and next I'll entertain a motion for adjournment, please.
Mr. President, it is 8:54. I move to adjourn.
Support.
I'm giving that one to Clark, because he's
Okay.
he's done.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting
These
adjourned.
nights I'm gonna say no.